Well, we'll be fully electric by 2030. This is the design plan at the moment, but there will be electric vehicles being introduced in Land Rover long before then. Probably circa around 2024 is when the first one will be available. It's still early days. I mean, because we will be selling up until 2025 with the current range of product as it's planned at the moment. But right now, I think based on perhaps the way in which government legislation and policy is aligned, people are still very much happy to buy the ICE or internal combustion engine vehicle as opposed to EV. But that will change over time. That will change based on government legislation or based on our product life cycle and indeed the EV infrastructure. There's a whole combination of things that will influence the change there. And it will be a gradual change. And over maybe the next 5 to 10 years, it will be more of a demographic change where the first-time buyers are very much only interested in buying an EV as opposed to an ICE engine. So I think the first point I'd raise here about the EV charging and the infrastructure is that can the industry respond fast enough to legislation from the government? So if legislation in its own right from any government policy can take time, and all aspects of it, whether it's short term or long term, towards delivering government objectives. But it's helpful, very helpful, if there's the cooperation between manufacturers and governments working together. Legislation is one thing, but developing technology and vehicles to meet the legislation is very hard. There is no global homogeneous policy on what EV should look like in terms of taxation, for instance, and timings on when it can take place. But the industry is constantly changing, and developing technology in vehicles is a long-term strategic program. It's very, very, very expensive right now. Specifically in Singapore, there are locations, increasing number of locations where you can get EV charging capabilities given to you. But I do think that there has to be a complete review of the geographical locations of where we start. Do we look at wireless programs which are under development? Do we look at every single shopping mall, every car park? The benefit of Singapore, though, is that as a small nation state, it's in a very, very strong, advantageous position to deliver a national EV strategy, probably than any other country globally, I would argue. Many of our buying public are living in landed properties or condominiums, areas where there is relatively easy access to charging. But I would imagine that the government is planning, surely long-term strategic plans to introduce EV, so it's available to everybody. We don't want to demographically exclude people because they can't afford a certain EV. The obvious target markets will be those that are embracing EV more so than others, and more rapidly than others. We've got a number of markets that aren't going to be developed sufficiently in time to manage a surge in EV, whether it's from premium segment or the mass market or the premium volume segments. There are certain markets that just will not be ready for pure EV. And there are many markets in this area, smaller markets across Southeast Asia. It's a combination, really. And so the timing and introduction of PHEV, the plug-in hybrid or mild hybrid and EV will vary. And there will be different launch patterns and launch stages across the whole of the region. The obvious solution for any manufacturer trying to introduce EV often is determined by incentives in certain markets. And they, as I said earlier, there's no homogeneous sort of legislation on what these policies look like, and we will move as fast as we can. From 2025, there'll be a brand new range of vehicles coming out from Jaguar, and Land Rover has developed very new, clever technology in terms of its platforms, which allows for PHEV, BEV, and ICE engines. Traditionally, using current platforms and sort of shoehorning in electric capabilities for particularly BEV is difficult for manufacturers. But the new platform technology that Jaguar Land Rover has developed gives us a huge amount of flexibility, and from a manufacturing perspective, it's very clever technology introducing that helps us massively to support that. As far as Land Rover is concerned, we will be phasing in new cars with the new platforms, but they will immediately able to have the BEV capability applied to those given cars. So the current range, as you see it in Land Rover, will continue, and it will be capable of taking in BEV technology from certain model years as and when introduced, whereas from 2025 we've announced there'll be a whole new range of Jaguar product. I don't see an immediate big profile or significant shift in the profile of the customers or anybody who's buying a Jaguar, whether it's petrol or electric. They're in search of modern luxury. They're sort of a premium exclusive experience. They're in search of buying, a bespoke crafted car. So in that sense, then I think that the profile of the customer will still have that genuine desire for our product. New customers for sure, and maybe the first-time buyers will bring a change to the demographics of our customers. But by and large, that those people that aspire to have one of our cars, indeed, is not going to change significantly. The ownership experience is not just about how it drives. I mean, our vehicles drive beautifully. They're dynamic in their own right. Whether you experience that because of the way in which you're driving, or whether you experience it as a consequence of how the vehicle is driving itself. But the other ownership sort of excitement points about our vehicles is the technology that's within it, and also the external design of the car, and the just overall exclusivity and appeal. It's interesting. The driverless autonomous vehicles was. We're developing the same technology as are indeed other manufacturers. But it's interesting that the discussion around autonomous driving has gone quiet over the last few months relative to the just overall genuine interest in EV. Time will tell how the industry changes. I mean, I personally like to drive. I love the experience of driving vehicles that give you fantastic feedback and excitement. And I hope that all our customers do as well. But autonomous driving, who would have thought? If I look back at what some manufacturers do, when they come up with a concept vehicle that looks extremely futuristic, and when it comes to final build and gets on the road, it looks nothing like it. And that's not an uncommon scenario that we see across much of the industry. But I'm proud to say that when you look back at some of our concept vehicles, even if you go back to the original Evoque, almost 10 years ago now, and the concept design that was first released of the car that came out, it was futuristic. It had a profound impact on the industry on when it was first launched. Same applies also for Velar and the first concept work that's been done there. And I know that the design team is determined to provide beautifully crafted, unique vehicles that I think are unparalleled within the industry. I truly believe that we design the best cars in the industry. And a testament to that is that after several years of service, the vehicles still look very much futuristic and new in the marketplace. And they have this fantastic ability of not aging quickly in comparison to maybe we see with other manufacturers. So I think cars will become more futuristic, with the demands on them to be ever more efficient and sleeker. The pressures on building extremely aerodynamical vehicles, lighter cars, and the style of manufacturing and the types of manufacturing, they will change unquestionably. But it's more about fine-tuning vehicle designs these days to get it to the very sort of perfect position that the car needs to be in. And if that comes with unique futuristic design, then yes, I'm sure it will be. I haven't seen any of the new Jaguar product, but I've heard it is going to be something really quite unique. I can't reveal any investment costs. I mean, it is significant, and year on year, Jaguar Land Rover has been investing billions in technology through brand new models, engine plants and designs and so forth. The ownership experience for the masses, I mean, right now, unless we're going to have a profound shift in EV charging solutions, then it won't be universal for all, but there will be a profound change in EV. So I think the ownership experience for everybody will be there. Flexibility, I guess, as we know it today, of charging under the current EV infrastructure versus the current geographical locations of gas stations. Tax revenue, that will be an interesting one for the government to deal with. I mean, we know that vehicle ownership in Singapore is critically important to them, and it's a very important aspect of their business model. There are many reasons to incentivize vehicles like this, and one of the other obvious opportunity costs will be clean and fresh air. With fewer vehicles pumping out emissions into the environment, clearly will be better for everybody. So certainly health is key here.